Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Ora News broadcast. I'm Daniel Cook, your host for the English edition, which we have Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. In today's news, tributes were held in Tirana today for Artan Santo, who was murdered yesterday by two unknown attackers. The tribute started at about 10:30 this morning. Friends, relatives, and colleagues have paid homage in honor of Santo, a father of two children, who died tragically at the age of 58 years old. Tributes in honor of the businessman were held at the Sheraton Hotel in Tirana, and around 4 o'clock, the body of the deceased was buried at the cemetery of Shara. The Prime Minister Edi Rama, the leader of the Assembly, Ilir Meta, the former Prime Minister, Fatos Nano, and other politicians were among those who paid homage to the memory of Artan Santo. Mr. Meta made this statement. He was one of the pioneers of the modernization of the banking system in our country, one of the best connoisseurs of the economy. In this day of sadness, I express my sincere condolences to his family and colleagues. I cannot stand without saying that the perpetrators and those who ordered this execution must be brought to justice. This cruel hand must be stopped to give peace and security to the family and to our Albanian society, said the head of the Assembly. The MP of the Socialist Party, Koko Kokodhima, said it is a day of pain, not only for the family, relatives, and collaborators, but also for the citizens of Albania. He was my friend. The chairman of the Democratic Party, Lulzim Basha, and his wife bowed respectfully before the coffin of the businessman, Artan Santo. Basha expressed his condolences to the family and left a last note in the Book of Memories. Today we give the final farewell to Artan Santo, a friend, a citizen, an untiring worker. People found a light of hope in him because they could not find it elsewhere. My condolences to the family of Tan Santo. I wish that God would ease your pain and leave you with the best memories of your beloved. This is a terrible crime, a mafia atrocity. It caused terror and fear. As such, it will serve as a great civic call to stop the evil at any cost, Basha said. The Interior Minister, Samir Tahiri, took part in the homage. He stopped before the body of the deceased, Artan Santo. Minister Tahiri refused to comment to reporters about this event. The MP of the Democratic Party, Josefina Topali, had this to say. We are all shocked. This is the most serious event since the assassination of Azem Haidari. I will say that what I think of Mr. Santo. He was impressive since the first meeting, intelligent and educated man. I appreciate his contribution. What has happened is hard to explain in words. Condolences to the family. Fatos Nano made this comment. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to express my appreciation for a well-deserved and irreplaceable personality. His loss leaves us with a gap that will be difficult to overcome. Artan Santo was an extraordinary friend. He remains the champion of using freedom for the benefit of others. At the exit of the premises where the tribute was held, the governor of the Bank of Albania, Ardian Fulani, said that the death of the talented banker is a serious loss. According to Fulani, he established a bank that managed to resist the crisis. The bank has prepared a staff, he said, who is motivated to bring money and is giving their last respect to this man, to continue his work, not to have only a solid institution, but an important institution for the Albanian economy, said Fulani, adding that the smile of Santo will be missed. The investigation continues to identify and capture the perpetrators of yesterday's murder. The police and the investigation team set up by the police continue the work to capture the perpetrators of the mafia murder that happened yesterday in the former block area of Tirana, in which the businessman Artan Santo was killed. Sources from the police claim that about 20 people have been categorized as witnesses, or people who might have information about the event. The General Director of State Police, Artan Didi, met late on Thursday evening and again in the early hours of Friday with the Vice Director of the Police, Sokol Bijka. It is learned that Didi wanted to know about the progress of the investigation so far. Meanwhile, at the order of the General Prosecutor, Adriatic Lala, a special investigative group of prosecutors has been set up. The Socialist Party has made another appeal for the opposition to join them in the territorial administrative reform. From the meeting themed Expanding the Local Authority, the head of the Parliamentary Committee of the Territorial Administrative Reform, on behalf of the majority, has once again invited the opposition to become part of the process. In his speech before the local leaders, the head of the Committee of the Reform and the Socialist Party MP, Bashkin Fino, spoke of the necessity of carrying out this reform. He asked the opposition to give its contribution. The cooperation of the opposition for the territorial reform is necessary, he said. We should follow the example of many other countries that have completed the reform to balance the cost for municipalities and communes, said Fino. Present at this meeting, in his role as the mayor of Tirana, was the leader of the Democratic Party, Lulzim Basha. He reiterated the opposition's stance on the need for this reform, but criticized it as being incomplete. Decentralization will determine the success or failure of this reform, he said. We can serve the citizens only with consensus. You have found the options for the reform, but not the separation plan, said Basha. The leader of the Democrats said that the reform is at risk of being politicized, but by what he called the parliamentary mega-majority. We have lost a lot of time in the territorial reform, but consensus must be achieved, Basha said. The majority extended the deadline of the committee to the maximum possible limit until the 31st of July, when the parliamentary session is closed. The process has begun for the election of the head of the Democratic Party in Elbasan, and the chairman of the Democratic Party, Lulzim Basha, was present at the activities. In his speech, Basha said that the events taking place today within the Democratic Party are not only partisan, but also public, precisely because this is the Democratic Party, which has held a major stamp on the development of these 23 years. Basha said, "We are the party to which the Albanians have entrusted their hopes, and this should make us more accountable. At these meetings, we have highlighted our shortcomings and our failures to correct the error of the 23rd of June. We will choose the best teams with the free vote. We will know how to respect the dignity of every citizen when we are in power. We will counter the ominous project of our opponent, which promotes crime and drug trafficking," said Basha. The 70th anniversary of the Chameria conflict has been celebrated in the recent days. On the 70th anniversary of the Greek genocide of the Cham community, the head of the National Alliance, Artur Doyoka, urged the Albanian government to find a political solution to the Cham issue. Doyoka said that up to this point, the Prime Minister Edi Rama and the Foreign Minister Ditmir Bushati have laid a foundation of good work, but the finishing of that work is the ultimate solution. He said, "No one can ease the pain that we have inherited from our generations. This heavy weight will be facilitated when everyone in Tirana and Athens takes the courage to face the truth of the issue of the Cham community. This great pain, this denied right, this trampled dignity over many decades requires an in-depth strategy and serious long-term plans. We thank the Prime Minister Edi Rama and congratulate the Foreign Minister Dietmar Bushati for raising and handling the Cham issue. But we note that much remains to be done. The Albanian citizens today deserve a good neighborhood, said Dojaka. At the international conference commemorating the Greek genocide of the Cham community in 1944, the historian Pulum Jufi said that the tragedy of 70 years ago was warned. He listed the reasons for the genocide. First of all, he said, it happened because they were Albanians. Secondly, because they were Muslims. And thirdly, because the Cham Muslim population was a relatively rich population. The fourth reason was strategy, because the Cham population lived on the border of Albania, which was considered a strategic area. It was part of the plans of the Greek government, Jufi said. The genocide of the Cham community was commemorated by different activities, by the parties that represent this community. The police forces continue to find and confiscate more drugs and weapons in Lazarat. Following the operation undertaken by the state police in Lazarat, the police have arrested the citizen Abbas Birbili, aged 61. During the inspection of his apartment, the police found a quantity of 22 bags filled with cannabis plants, with a combined weight of 210 kilograms, and 4 wrapped packages with the same drug with a weight of about 3 kilograms. In the framework of this operation, 30 people have been arrested who are suspected of assault with weapons against the police forces for the production and sale of narcotics, cultivation of cannabis, resisting police forces, and destruction of property. A large quantity of drugs has been seized, and the head of the municipality of Lazarat is being prosecuted. Meanwhile, the search continues in the village for more weapons and drugs. The blue uniforms have seized 362 weapons of different kinds so far. Before the midday hours, they destroyed 1 ton and 782 kilograms of marijuana in 3 different places. Meanwhile, a large quantity of weapons, ammunition, and explosives were found and seized. The ambassador of France to Albania says that cooperation between the two political parties is absolutely necessary for progress toward accession. The French ambassador to Tirana, Christine Moreau, has stated that the challenge for the government in its path toward the European Union remains the justice reform. The cooperation between the parties is required for this reform, said Ambassador Moreau. I am very happy that your country managed to obtain the candidate status. Albania has all the possibilities to continue with further steps and the opening of accession negotiations. The Council of Europe also spoke clearly with its recommendations. It said that consensus between the parties and inclusion are needed, but the real challenge for your government remains the justice reform, the fight against corruption and organized crime, to further continue with the economic policies that the government should pursue in the future, said the ambassador, Christine Moreau. The statement of the ambassador was made during a reception organized by the French embassy in Tirana with the representatives of the Association of Mediterranean Ombudsmen. The Muslim community is preparing for Ramadan, their holy month, which begins this Saturday. It will begin on Saturday and run through Monday, July 28th. During Ramadan, Muslims will fast and practice abstinence from dawn until sunset for 30 days. The annual event marks the anniversary of the Quran being revealed to the Prophet Muhammad. Ramadan is the 9th month of the 12-month Islamic calendar, starting after the sighting of the new moon. The holy month starts at sunset when the moon is spotted and goes on until the next new moon appears. The month of fasting, one of the 5 pillars of Islam, is celebrated by more than 1.5 billion Muslims around the world. Religious leaders from around the world have called for a month of peace and solidarity. In Tirana, the head of the Muslim community, Skender Bruchaj, wished for a blessed fasting month and reminded the believers that this is the month of mercy, peace, and solidarity. He released this statement: "Dear Albanian Muslim believers, wherever you are in Albania, in the Albanian lands, as well as throughout the world, on behalf of the Muslim community of Albania, but also in my personal name, I have the pleasure and honor to congratulate you for the prosperous month of Ramadan. Tomorrow is the first day of this blessed month, and also the first day of fasting. Ramadan is the month of peace, of solidarity, and of divine mercy. In this prosperous month, love for each other is increased, and especially in the hearts of believers. The desire prevails for forgiveness of errors and the behavior of softness and wisdom. The purpose of Ramadan is to focus on spirituality, charity, and prayer, as well as withholding from any acts of violence during the fast. All Muslims around the world are expected to participate, with the exception of the elderly, sick, and pregnant. Muslims are expected to refrain from food and drink and abstain from smoking and sex each day during the month, from dawn to dusk. The breaking of the fast, or iftar, begins at dusk by eating dates. Some Muslims have slightly different variations and have broader definitions of the practices during Ramadan. The election of the Kosovo Speaker of Parliament may lead the country into political crisis. Following the certification of the elections by the Central Election Commission, the country is now awaiting the creation of new institutions. In all likelihood, the creation of new institutions following the June 8th elections will start with the constitution of the Parliament of Kosovo and the election of the Speaker of Parliament. But the election of the Speaker may lead the country to a political crisis, according to law experts. Besides the dilemma as to who is entitled to nominate the Prime Minister, there is also another dilemma, that of the post of the Speaker of Parliament. LDK, AAK, and Incentive for Kosovo have warned that they will form a parliamentary group to win the right to elect the Speaker, based on the Constitution and regulations. Based on the same documents, PDK, too, as the winning party of the elections, insists that the position of the Speaker belongs to them, along with the Prime Minister nominee. Within 30 days after the announcement of the official results of the election, the Parliament of Kosovo must be gathered in session in order to be constituted. Before the session, MPs fill out a form in which they declare the parliamentary group that they belong to. The biggest parliamentary group elects the Speaker of Parliament. Based on this logic, the 3 opposition parties who have signed a post-election coalition have warned about their unification into a single parliamentary group. Current Speaker of Parliament Jakub Krasniqi told IBNA that based on the Constitution, the new Speaker of Parliament is elected by the largest parliamentary group. According to Krasniqi, before the Constitution session, the parliamentary groups must be formed, and according to him, this happens when MPs fill out their party declaration forms. A professor of constitutional law, Fatos Rushiti, told IBNA that if the LDK, AAK, and Incentive form special parliamentary groups, the right to nominate the Speaker of Parliament automatically belongs to the PDK as the biggest party. Otherwise, the PDK loses this right. If LDK, AAK, and Incentive decide to form a parliamentary group, which at the same time will be the group with the most seats in Parliament, then based on the regulation of Parliament and the Constitution, they are automatically entitled to nominate and elect the Speaker of Parliament, says Rushiti. But PDK, as the winning party of the elections, insisted that they are entitled to nominate the Speaker of Parliament and the Prime Minister. Representatives of this political party say that based on the Parliament's regulation, the post of the Speaker belongs to the PDK, and that the rules cannot be changed through political deals. A former member of the Parliament's steering committee, Naim Moloku, declared that if the new government is not formed by the party that won the June 8th elections, then Kosovo has two options: to form a technical government for a year or to hold fresh elections. He says that the post of the Speaker of Parliament cannot go to LDK because, based on the regulation, it belongs to the party that has won the majority of the votes. Article 67 of the Constitution of Kosovo talks about the election of the chairman and vice chairman, and it says that the Speaker of Parliament is proposed by the largest parliamentary group and is elected with the majority of votes by all members of Parliament. The same is also sanctioned by Parliament's regulations. Meanwhile, in Article 20, Parliament's regulations talk about the formation and the functioning of parliamentary groups, and it says that MPs may form a parliamentary group based on their party affiliations. The opposition leaders in Kosovo are banding together to ensure that there will not be a third repetition of Taqi's cabinet. The leaders of the opposition coalition in Kosovo, Isa Mustafa, Ramush Haradinaj, and Fatmir Limaj, have had a meeting today in Pristina, where they have discussed the creation of the next government, which is soon expected to be formed. The Prime Minister's nominee, the leader of Alliance for the Future of Kosovo, Ramush Haradinaj, said to the media that there will not be a Taqi III cabinet. Our positioning is that there will not be a Taqi III government. All other options are open. It was a good meeting because we're clarifying our responsibilities and tasks. We have good communication with the Self-Determination Party and its leader, Mr. Kurti. We have the material in our hands and we're discussing it together. We are expecting a fair ruling from the Constitutional Court, said Haradinaj. Meanwhile, the vice chairman of the Democratic League of Kosovo, Lufti Haziri, said that today's meeting is a new development. Chairman Mustafa and I have just come back from Brussels, where we have received the support of the European People's Party, he said. Meanwhile, Fatmir Limaj from the Incentive for Kosovo said that as coalition partners, we talked about further issues of the government program. The Serb politician Oliver Ivanović will be held in prison for 2 additional months. Oliver Ivanović, who stands accused of war crimes against Kosovo Albanians and murders following the 1990 conflicts, will be held in custody for 2 more months, despite Belgrade's protests. A pre-trial judge at the Mitrovica base court on Friday extended the Kosovo Serb politician Ivanovic's detention on remand until August 26th, angering officials in Belgrade who insist that the case against him is politically motivated. The pre-trial judge found that the risk of flight and the risk that the defendant might influence witnesses if released continued to exist, and that there are no less severe measures that could be imposed at this time, the EU Rule of Law Mission, EULEX, said in a statement. Ivanović was arrested in January on suspicion of involvement in war crimes against ethnic Albanians and in murders committed after the 1990s conflict. He was detained on suspicion of involvement in war crimes and violence in 2000, in which 10 Kosovo Albanians were killed and many more were wounded and driven from their homes. Ivanović at the time was a leading bridge watcher, one of the hardline Serbs who patrolled the main bridge in Mitrovica, dividing the town into Serbian and Albanian sectors. The head of the Serbian government office for Kosovo, Marko Đurić, said that the extension of Ivanovic's custody was a bad sign for the rule of law in Kosovo. It is worrying that Ivanović was arrested in January under suspicion that he took part in crimes in Kosovo in 1999 and 2000, while the indictment against him has still not been issued, which proves our doubts that this is a political process, Đurić said. This has been the Aura News English edition. Thank you for watching. Please join us again tomorrow at 6 p.m. Thank you and good night.